All right, looks like we are good there. Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. Folks, I'm super psyched about today's episode and this warrior we have joining us here today. Jeff is already in our pregame chat. I'll throw him under the bus here for a second. He was speaking so profoundly. I was like, I don't know if he realizes we're not live, but so I was like, hey, we're pre-gaming. And anyway, we had a good chuckle there, but golly, I'm just, oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting reverb. 1 second, folks. So I was like, hey, we're pre-gaming. And anyway, we had a good chuckle there. Where is that happening? Oh, it's coming from my phone. I'm so sorry, folks. That was a bad hiccup there. I was like, I must have clicked when I shared that link with you. It was up on my phone, so it started playing. I was like, oh no. Anyways, Jeff just had very profound things to say, and I just want to compliment his courage when I threw out the option to be live here today, that he accepted just without batting an eye. And it is truly the most authentic, raw, real way of going about these episodes. It's always nice to have editing on your side, but when it comes to things like this, it's too freaking important, right? We got to capture it all. So I commend you, Jeff, and I know you're showing up here to share your story, essentially to help save lives, bring more awareness to this true epidemic known as Lyme disease. And right out the gate, let's just welcome you, Jeff. Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure. And let me ask you, just kind of out the gate, how bad did this chronic disease get for you? Kind of for how long, and how are you doing with it now?
So there's not many stories online that I read that people are going through that I don't understand that aspect of it. I know with Lyme, some people are hit different ways.
Right.
My story was very similar to many, which is that I was not diagnosed properly. Like, all my problems were always equated to something else for many years until it become, like almost irreversible in several different systems of my body. So my biggest fallout was I started losing the majority of my vision, and I had double vision, and then I just, like, the brain it just quit taking in the left eye signal. So so I was down to about 25% vision, and I owned a computer company, a software company. So I was down to, I was not able to work because I couldn't see the computer. But I have an interesting story because I started my journey with money and time and resources. And I learned I learned after all those were gone over several years of trying to find solutions that the truth wasn't in any of the resources that I thought I needed. It wasn't in any of the treatments that I thought I needed. It was in just every day. It's basically like, how do I make tomorrow a little bit better in my situation? And so every day I'm working towards that, and understanding that people can't see the progress we're making because our progress is slow in their boat or in their world. So so a lot of, like, I went through a lot of stages when I was finally diagnosed properly. I figured it out myself by talking to somebody else who had it, and went and got a test from Isogenics and to confirm. And but I'd spent, like so many thousands of dollars by that stage, and by the time I actually got the diagnosis, then I was out of money. So it didn't really do me much good, except for I was able to say that I had something going wrong. People in my life couldn't quite understand that there was a part of me that was very happy that I had found an answer, because I had spent many years struggling with everything from, surgeries into joints to surgeries on my eyes to, like just stomach problems and breathing problems. And so for me, I had this overwhelming like stage of almost happiness, because at least I knew that there was something wrong and I could go at it. I could at least get educated and start working on it. So,
So it actually ended up very debilitating, devastating. It sounds like, for a long time for you. Like, you actually were facing it. You made it sound like on text it might have been over a decade. How long do you suppose? Yeah, it really impacted you to where you started, finding more so solutions.
So at the age of 30, I was having more surgeries than I should. I had I was a soccer player, so I was supposed to be in good shape, owned a couple gyms at one stage in my 20s. So it wasn't like I didn't know how to take care of myself, but my body was breaking down. So at 30, I had a double sports hernia surgeries, and I never could quite recover from that. And so when your gut gets off, then your everything, your gut and your brain are very much connected, and it's a matter of that's when I really it allowed Lyme to really take over. When you're fighting one thing, then Lyme takes over other things as well.
That's why I call it a ticking time bomb. So folks because I went over 30 years without even a diagnosis at all. Like, okay, some arthritic pain, they just chalked it up as growing pains, and some like cognitive dysfunction and learning disabilities, different than any of my other 5 siblings. Like, it should have been a red flag to an extent, but that's, I'm not casting stones at anyone for not acknowledging, because it's just putting emphasis for all of us right here, right now, to seize the opportunities we have to getting the information out. There's doctors speaking out on this horrific illness as though more Americans more than likely have it than don't, that have really done their research. So it's like, whoa, all of a sudden the CDC's defective testing, and they're still getting 500,000 Americans, and the numbers growing each year exponentially. That's more than breast cancer and HIV combined, even based on their diagnosis and their record. That should be common knowledge, right? There should be more effective testing. There should be a clearer path. So all these things I'm touching on is just putting more layers on the importance of just awareness, because that will create more solutions, because it'll lead folks, when they're very barely symptomatic, to more so acknowledge the root of their issues before, because I don't mean any pun here, but it truly is a ticking time bomb, where when your immune system gets suppressed to an extent, when you're dealing with the stressors and anxieties in this life, and it's causing this inflammation throughout your body, like, there's no wonder as to why there's 300 other illnesses that often get diagnosed for Lyme without Lyme being recognized. And we just gotta fix that. So that resonates profoundly with me, brother. But for me, it wasn't until things went chronic, until we ruled out the head trauma I had, until, years later, and lots and lots of money, lots of struggle, and lots of seeking answers, that finally, I had my Lyme positive diagnosis. And it was a bittersweet day. It was like, on one hand, no one wants this diagnosis because, as you read into it and you look into it, everyone's journey is different to get out of it. What helps one individual doesn't necessarily help the other, but it gave me a direction nonetheless. And I was grateful for that. And it truly is a blessing to get that diagnosis, whether you're in chronic inflammation or stage, or just barely even symptomatic, barely even bit or such. So anyway, I digress. And I mean, we just dove right in. So let's just continue. Keep sharing what you found important. So, wow, you were getting misdiagnosed. The Western medicine business wasn't necessarily doing you any good. It was more so initially a self-diagnosis just from your own education.
Yeah, and that was after, similar story to many other people. I was the type of guy that, I went through my 20s that I wouldn't take aspirin or Tylenol. I just wasn't a medicine person, because early on in my life, I had very terrible episodes at the age of 3 that may or may not have been related, who knows, but I basically was unable to breathe, and they took me to, I spent a lot of time in the hospital, in a bubble, like oxygen tent, So those are my first memories, and that may or may not be related, but it's a matter of, I wasn't into medicine from a young age. If I didn't have to take it because of that, I did have to take medicine at a young age. So in my 20s, I didn't want to take it at all. Well, the same story as other people. The first time I had my first child, and my business is going well, but it's also at a stressful building point. And I hurt my back a little bit. And I went and I took, and this guy, I got pain meds. And man, the first time I took pain meds, with the amount of pain that I had been dealing with just on a regular basis, I was like, this changes my life. I'm going to do this. So that's my responsibility. I take responsibility for everything I took, but I did go down the path that I thought was the right way to do things, which was go to every doctor you need to and let them tell you what you need to do, and then take what they give you. And I did that for too long. I had too many surgeries, and I decided, you know what, I'm done with this. Because by that time I was on antidepressants, pain meds, and benzos, just to stay afloat, and so that was a process in itself. So it's been 8 years since I've had any medication, with the exception of cannabis. But removing that from my life was both harrowing. It was very difficult, and it was. I don't want to tell people that it's. In some cases, it's life-threatening. You know.
Yes.
So it's not like I don't give advice on that kind of stuff, but I do know the value of looking over years. I'm subscribing to this path, and every year I've got something else falling apart. Well, that doesn't make sense. Let me go backwards. And so I just started unwinding, these surgeries, where did that come from? Why am I having eye problems? And it's really a slowing down and looking at everything holistically until I finally figured out, hey, I've actually got something wrong that covers a lot of problems. And it's not like I'm having these random, no adrenal system and no immune system, and then joints going out. It's not, this isn't random. It made more sense to me that there's a reason behind it all,
I love that. Jeff, you're hitting a nail so profoundly on the head through your personal walk. We have been so blindly and trusting in white lab coats like doctors and Western medicine for far too long. Now, there's a place and time for them, but I feel it's more on the surgical side of things, not medical actual advice, because they themselves have been indoctrinated with this whole business culture and feeding big pharma and not actually looking at the roots of the issues. The simple fact you're going into your family physician and the first things out of their mouth aren't like, what are you eating? What's your source of water? You know, and start ordering up labs essentially to look at your actual nutrition levels, your hormonal levels, your toxin levels. And for me, a huge one that kind of even out the gate got swept under the rug was a lot of the mold toxicity I had within my body. And as I've done all this research, it's interesting with it in this state of just sheer debilitation, pain, struggle, cognitive dysfunction, we end up in a huge way, our bodies in a sense is failing us, but we got to become our greatest advocate and almost educate ourselves in this day and age. And that is a problem. We got to help clear the path for those in these situations, because you can see, because I felt it and I was knocking on death's door, and there was a long stint there for me that I don't even know how I survived, to be honest. I wanted to throw in the towel. It wasn't even daily. It became a moment by moment, second by second. And that's a type of existence in this life I wouldn't wish on anyone, right? Yeah. It goes beyond my ability to articulate. It is hell in this existence. But there could be a huge shift with educating the masses to where individuals, because until you check all the boxes and you start looking into, like we dove into, we'll bring in the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, the biological. So until you look into all of that, like, why on God's green earth would we make anyone out to be the dang issue? Like, as an individual, now we're showing up in a way that is going to be more detrimental for some folks than the actual life-threatening illness they're faced with. We got to grasp that. We need to show up in more effective ways for those individuals. And it's like, who are we to even say you need a psychiatrist, you need psych meds, you need antidepressants, when we haven't looked into nutritional, hormonal, toxins, molds, all these things, right? There's the spiritual aspect, and show up in an effective, loving way for them individuals. And that's where I think even Western medicine gets it wrong. They won't sit there. If you challenge their narrative, more often than not, they're just going to take offense, and they're the educated doctor, and it's so backwards, man. Anyway, I digress yet again. That just was resonating so profoundly, and we all could rewire our brains in a more healthy sense, because there was this transition right there in your journey where, you realize this path wasn't leading to solutions. And you kind of realized the insanity of it. And I've had that moment too, where I just continually was doing these same things and just hopeful that something was going to lead to some type of breakthrough. And I think this both leads us to a point where we start looking inwardly, educating ourselves, but also looking inwardly on a spiritual sense, on a trauma sense. There were so many things that we're attributing to kind of perpetuating that, horrific state. And as we focus, and that's where I want to challenge folks, it's not just Lyme disease. It's everyone in this life that can start looking inwardly, humble themselves, be honest with themselves. I believe there's even more breakthrough for all of us to have. And this is a forever work, because we're just flawed beings. And the more we can like tap into that and question things healthily and seek the root of the issues, we will more effectively help, not just help one another, but we'll increase our frequencies, our light, our existence, our brilliance, our spiritual gifts in this existence. So if you want to talk more on what helped lead you to more solutions, like what did that path look like as you came back and you realized the insanity, this wasn't leading to anywhere? What were, as you reflect back a bit, just subtle shifts that help put you on a path to where you are today? Because there's a lot of individuals that want to be on this podcast. They want to share their story, Jeff, but they're not in a well enough state, and they're just recouping. It's that debilitating. So you've obviously found solutions, and I like how you just put it. It wasn't anything. It's more simple and within grasp than we all think. It's just really tough work to humble yourself and start looking inwardly like that,
Yeah. And so my solutions came, I had some things were a blessing. If a silver lining, if you find it, with the memory problems. My memory problems were so severe for 2 to 3 years that I was suicidal and just sleeping. I would sleep half my week, and then I would get my boys for 50% of the time, and I'd take care of them. But I'd be too exhausted because they were younger even then, and I'd be too exhausted to do anything else. I'd sleep for the next half week. But with the memory problems, first of all, I learned how to trim so much out of my life. If you were to ask, or you said, what are the small things that you've done? Well, I did small things every day that involved trimming something out of my life. And it's actually way harder than we imagine. So I, instead of, because I wanted to go into tomorrow with a better chance of having a better day and surviving, and maybe even smiling. Like, I wanted to have that chance, So I would set myself up, and I found a very clear path in healing through, I don't know how, it's meditation, it's prayer, but it's a matter of sitting still long enough to understand what my body is feeling. Like how, can I not breathe right now? Okay, well, what options do I have to fix that? Mullein is a wonderful herb that is pretty inexpensive, and it made it into my arsenal. So the next time I was a little bit more prepared. And so over years, I would say that I've changed everything about my life, but it was all very, very small changes. And a lot of those for me were habits. At my worst, I lost everything, trying to figure out what was wrong, including
speak on that a little bit. Let's embellish on that. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying this is my boys' mom. I got 3 boys. My boys' mom and I were best friends now, just like when we were dating and got married. But I went through a divorce during that time. So as you can imagine, it wasn't perfect, and complicated by, not only was I very non-functional, but and having trouble taking care of basics, but my business was going under, or at least struggling, and so there's so many challenges that happened that play into family life that people will never understand, that can take years to accumulate, like to actually result in an outcome, you know? And so it's a matter of, I lost pretty much, you know, she's amazing. As always, like I've been able to get my kids I've never missed a shift with my kids during this time, but it doesn't mean I went to work. But like, right. But she, you know, so we're like, she's like my best friend now. I actually ended up moving real close to her. So we're like,
it's tough without the education. How are these individuals going to effectively even show up or understand what we're dealing with? So we more so are seen as like unstable. I fulfilled that, and it's weird. I didn't find out till let's just say more so recently about Lyme Rage, but I 100% fulfilled that very definition. You know, simple situations where I felt like I wasn't being heard or they didn't understand, and they were still making like psychological efforts, then understanding, like, and here I am just pouring it all out there. I would be abnormally, there's even a more profound word that I could put in that stead. Just, I was highly emotional, and I would react in such ways. It would be, I was making these challenges even more challenging. Like, it's tough to explain. It's like seemingly normal, more so life experiences were ending very traumatic, and not that a separation and things, like, I couldn't even imagine. It would feel in a business going down like your world's crumbling, and you in that moment don't have a foreseeable way out. That's why I like how you just kind of started taking the time to look inwardly. Well, what is it? Like, you're alive, you're breathing, or you're not breathing. Like, what do you need to get through that moment? That's powerful stuff. Like, that's humbling in a sense, to where, dude, it's gotten you through. Because without that, people in this situation, we got to kind of touch on, it's no secret that those that struggle with this illness, there is a very high suicide rate. And it's so freaking sad, because I feel like a huge part of that is people not acknowledging what is actually ailing this person. Because when I get out of that chronic state, and even with my flare up now, I am not near that state. And that's not me at all. At all. Right. I'm not freaking suicidal, but I 100% became that with the flare up. Like, where people got to understand, without serotonin production, dopamine, and cortisol all over the place, like, and you're in pain, you can't neurologically really function, your memory's going, your body seems to be failing, and you're faced with all these surgeries in your eyesight. Bro, you got to inner strength, and you tapped into a perspective and things like is a sense of medicine that we need to acknowledge as sufferers and ones that aren't, so we can support in that sense to minimize that horrific statistic.
And so on this, I always like to analyze the gap and take both sides to the extreme and try to sit in it. And what's funny is that I'm actually in the situation where I can do this, because I can totally understand why I participated in Lyme Rage, like why I would scream, because I was there and I was in my body, and I understand why. Now I'm out clear, and it's a matter of, it's like, well, that's not really, it's now understandable for me to understand how normal people couldn't deal with that, because so now I'm on both sides. So what I look at is the gap. And I think on one hand, I want to tell people to, like, with the Lyme Rage stuff, you got to realize that it's actually not, I don't like the term broken brain or anything like that. It's literally being weighed down with several different types of burdens to the point that you kind of lose your stuff for a second. But what other people don't understand yet, when we're looking from that side, is that, man, just getting up, getting in a shower, and actually getting to my desk to try to go to work. Some days that doesn't happen, you know, not me now, but like back then. And I know a lot of people are still there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like these little tasks, they are pretty big, but even now, like, you know, I've got a lot of yard work I got to cover. Before, I had to be in an apartment because I couldn't quite get around my apartment, you know.
Wow.
Now I'm dealing with yard work, and instead of it being a weight, I'm just like, oh, I got to do that. But 2 years ago, it would nearly, you know, put me down for a day if I let cripple me if I let the weight of it sit in.
Yeah.
So if we start analyzing the gap and realize that there are a lot of good people. And there's a reason that this is really important. There's a lot of good people who just truly don't understand. And so if we can find a way to be the bigger person and reach them, then we're able to help maybe even keep some relationships in our life, and only good ones, only the ones that you want, be willing to get rid of any that don't.
Right.
But it's kind of like when people get stretched, we have to come much further to reach them, I believe, because they're not being stretched. And that's just the nature of empathy. That's the nature of being able to understand things. And here's the biggest challenge I have with it is, okay, our mindset is so important. And one of the biggest things we face is we have to actually be our own advocates and say that I am sick. There's something wrong. I'm having memory problems or joint problems or what. I'm in terrible pain all the time. And even it's not in my head, you know? So we have to be able to say that.
To have that shift within yourself, because we'll doubt ourselves. You know, we'll start believing those even around us and whatnot, and not acknowledging the root of the issue, which will lead to no solutions. And I love what you're addressing here, the subconscious, the inner work we could do. There's a level of acceptance that, especially in the chronic stage, that you gotta be able to give yourself grace and breathe. And then there can be, with spiritual connection and things like that too. I love that you touched on meditation and really taking the time. And I mean, I love diving into the Bible. It just speaks to me on such a way, such a level that it becomes easier and easier for me to humble myself. And that has been the greatest blessing. This has been the best medicine I've experienced in this life thus far. There's been no magic pill, no singular doctor. Undoubtedly, we've moved the needle on detoxifying this body to more so stay out of that Lyme flare up. That's where you do truly become what you eat. And it's no secret that there's so much poison in our food, our water, our air. It's so many things we need to address. But how are we going to properly show up and address these things unless we gain that personal resilience? So the power of the tongue, the power of the subconscious, and excuse me, that self-work, it's undermined. Like, it is probably the cornerstone to getting well.
Well, and so here's the challenge that we have, though, is that a lot of times we have to start by believing it ourselves that, wow, there's something wrong. But then you have to spend time advocating, understanding it yourself, and exploring what works for you and what doesn't around your relationships. And that doesn't always go too well, right? So it's a matter, it's a matter of being able to look across the gap, shorten the gap, and just be willing to kind of see differently. But so at the same time that we're advocating for ourselves, it's hard because we're using words like I'm sick, I don't feel well. And that's where I really actually have one of the biggest challenges is we have to draw a line between advocating for ourselves and letting it sink into who we are. Like, yes, I have Lyme disease. And yes, like these are all the reasons it's a struggle for me. And these are all the reasons. But every time you repeat a reason that it's a struggle for you, it doubles down. It's stronger. Yeah. And so we're in this weird thing where we have to advocate for ourselves. So we use words to say, this is what I'm dealing with. So we can not get empathy, but so we can be understood. But those words actually are sinking deeper into our spirit, the things that we're trying to get away from. And so I don't know, that's kind of where, like, when you're looking at both sides, you got to see how big a gap it is. Like the gap analysis there is just, it's really big, and don't underestimate it.
I think your cat really loves you. Do you need to let your cat out or anything? I'll just.
Yeah. Where is that thing?
Wow, folks, Jeff is really bringing some light in such a way that I know it could bless so many individuals' lives, bringing more understanding to the sufferer and the ones that want to effectively, because out of love, if you love the individual, why is it that we get so caught up with ourselves? Maybe it could be a lot of things. It could just be sheer lack of understanding. Laziness should be out the window, because if you genuinely love them, you'll start doing the research to show up in effective ways, because then you can stop that negative thought, because you could essentially be like, I believe you. I'm here for you. You got this. We got this together. And help provide like nutritional support, detoxification of the body. There's clearly amazing things out there. Spiritually, you're covering the emotional side of things, the loving side of things. Like the worst thing, I'm telling you, when you're just making them up to be the issues and pawning off on a professional psychiatrist, they're not educated in this, folks. They're just not. There might be a couple in the world that because one of their family members or they themselves became ill with Lyme disease, so they, it all just boils down to spreading awareness. And Jeff, once again, thank you. Like it feels like we're just getting started, and we just are. But I just want to thank you again for showing up, because this is resonating on a very profound level with me already. I can only imagine as to how it's going to breathe light and life into, like, we could go on behalf of others in that state and speak on their behalf in a sense, right? And that's powerful stuff. Continue, man. Not becoming the illness.
Say what?
Not becoming the illness. Like that's very powerful stuff. It's like accepting that it's in your body and it's having these symptoms, but you're not becoming that illness. Like you're actually just seeking from there on. You don't need, proper validation. And that's where some folks, you also got to understand that we don't have control of over other individuals. So as much as you want a certain family member or a certain loved one there on your behalf, if they continually show up in ways that are just continually deteriorating, where after the encounter you want to throw in the towel that much more, there comes a point, I truly feel, acknowledging that this relation as of right now it's endangering everything that much more. And as challenging as it may be, there is a severing of ties. There is a level of healthy boundaries where you start getting people in your life that are showing up in that effective sense. And once you have just the right amount of support, then you can really shift things to, okay, you look at kind of the mindset. What can I do today to even set up my tomorrow that much better? I'm just going to drink 2 extra glasses of water. I'm going to go sit in the sunlight and take off my shoes and ground to Mother Earth. You know, just, which I view as a creation of God, and there's a lot of love in that. So I just view it personally as a way of connecting to the love of God through a physical sense, through real life. And there's just subtle little hacks, like even hopping in the shower and just being like, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself. It was real hard to get in here, but I'm going to go ahead and crank it on the cold and just stand there like, oh, and then you can go back to hot just for a second and be like, oh, you know what, that actually felt good. Do it again, you know, and do that a few times. I'm telling you, like, suicidal thoughts, like if you had a freaking ice river in your backyard, that would be ideal. Just freaking buck up and get out there, dive in it and get out. Like, suicidal thoughts are gone. I'm telling you, they're just gone because it fires up something just natural. And that's acknowledging this type of life with all the frequencies, with all these things. It's relatively new. And we can see the epidemic of depression, the epidemic of Lyme, just all these other things like obesity, you know, cognitive dysfunction, diabetes. I mean, you name it. And all these things can lead to solutions for it all. And we need the best version of everyone kind of yesterday to secure a better, brighter future. And I mean, it's no secret. I'm unmuzzled. This is biowarfare. We got to put an end to this type of stuff. It's downright scary. You brought up lab. What is it? 257?
I think it's 257. Lab 257.
257. I had heard that they were going to make a documentary on that book, and I haven't made it through the whole book. Have you come across any actual video or audio versions of that?
No, I've only seen the book.
Okay. I have a real hard time personally with reading. It's like I had to relearn it, you know, and then it became a practice as to not just going through the words. Like, I have a big issue retaining it, you know, and my mind wanders too much. So it's a great challenge, but I accept.
No, I totally understand that. When I went from, I mean, I read on average a book a week, and when in my 20s, and then I got to the point I didn't read a book I couldn't get through a book for a few years. So I totally understand that one.
Wow. So what are some of the other things that just help propel you out of that chronic threatening state?
I would say the other biggest thing that I would mention is nutrition, and not only nutrition, but it goes back to sitting still and understanding what something takes in order to be here. And so if nutrition's huge, but beyond nutrition, I would urge people to start understanding what it would be like to grow something, even if it's just one pot in their windowsill. Start there.
Okay.
But the reason is that there's two things that are happening. One, if you start growing your own food, like right now I'm sitting here, my kids are going to eat like squash from our garden right here. And then this is a cucumber from our garden. Yeah. Wow. So like the tea that I'm drinking right now is moringa tea, spearmint, peppermint, and pineapple sage, all from the garden. And so I started growing stuff like 6 or 7 years ago to understand. For me, I didn't know why. I was following my what I felt like was my healing path, but I needed something in my apartment that made me smile. So succulents made me smile. And so I started buying succulents. I filled my whole apartment up with them. So every time I turned and looked, I kept it organized too, but I would see something that would make me smile. And so, so not only that, but then these things that made me smile, they ended up dying. And so I'm starting to understand that, wow, if I want them to keep me, and that made me feel worse, right? So if I want them to smile, I got to learn how to nurture them. Well, what I learned is it takes several different ways to nurture several different types of plants. And, you know, between watering too much and too little, or too much fertilizer, the wrong kind of sand or dirt, soil.
Yeah.
I started to realize, wow, I really don't know how to nurture myself. And so when you start looking at nutrition, it's a holistic point of view. Like, how can I actually start? I don't want to go to a doctor appointment and do one thing for one part of my body. I want to spend that energy doing something that helps my entire body and being. Wow. And so the depth of it's more about the cleanliness that you get from growing your own food. It's about nurturing the plants, understanding what it takes to get a harvest, because a lot of us, the majority of us, are walking around. If we were to relate ourselves to plants, we never actually get to the point of harvest or bloom in this life. We're just walking around as decent plants, you know, like we look kind of good. Harvest or bloom, I would say harvest or bloom is when you're operating in your gifts. Your purpose is very strong. And so you start understanding that, wow, it took me 3-4 years to learn how to grow. You know, I was growing these funny little seeds to try to get plants this big. And then, you know, 4 or 5 years later, now I'm learning how, well, we got to cut our cucumber before they get too big because they get massive. Wow. But there was a long gap in between understanding how to grow a plant and how to get a harvest. And so I feel like nutrition's huge to understand where your food comes from for all those reasons. But then when you start getting into your food, there's the spiritual side of it. It feeds us on several different levels. And when you're connected to it, one of the biggest things for me is my 3 boys. I don't want them to subscribe to this 8-second world where everything is 8-second clips. I want them to be able to think and see something and realize that if I plant a seed, I might not get that harvest for 2. I don't even see a sprout for 8 weeks. Wow. But it's so they make their own food from the garden. You know, they can cook their own food, kind of. Like, we're not fully supportive yet, but we have little bits that we can do, you know?
It's like evil has tapped into that convenient side of our civilization, and it's no secret, right? Because there's no reason technically for the GMOs and the pesticides, and you know, like, it just there seems to me to be malintent, and it's all about big money. It's about, I mean, you can see the freedoms under attack. It's not, why are they trying to disarm our populace? You know, that is one of still the greatest threats to tyranny around the world. So to diminish our state to where we just don't even feel well enough to be responsible with arms, then it becomes more so accepted that, well, shoot, if no one has them, then it's not going to be an issue. And that is insanity to me, because what I understand, what I've seen, what history has told me through all these other countries that gave up that right, and it's led to nothing good. And there's been genocide after genocide after genocide where, you know, like, I mean, look at the drug wars, right? For example, the simple fact that, okay, there's a lot of legal drugs that are killing individuals, like fentanyl, for example, right here in this country. More than 100,000 Americans right now are dying each year from fentanyl. And so it's just insane to think you're only taking the right to bear away from the law abiding. It's still going to be accessible by the criminals, essentially, the ones that want to do ill, and they won't have any resistance at that point. And it's not good. So to gain back the keys and all the sense. And you really brought up just something so powerful that hits me so profoundly. I never even really dove into, because I personally, excuse me, haven't taken upon that responsibility myself to grow. I'm going to do that. I'm growing something 100%. I'm growing something. And it would be awesome to get to the point of a harvest. Because as in something you don't know, Jeff, I'm out here in the wilderness right now. I have an active buck hunt happening right now, but I haven't been well enough. And it's like to partake, I actually have overdone it. I resorted to more so convenient, quick, pre-made, processed burritos, things of that nature, and it's led to my flare up. There's a whole combination, and it's become even more clear to me. It's just driving that nail. I'm a stubborn one, you know. Like I speak how important it is, and I feel like a total hypocrite. But this is just solidifying that much more. I made it down to the valley. I got or the nearest town and got some more so holistic beef. But there's a spiritual aspect that to even harvesting an animal out here on a hunt. We are so far removed from all of that in our current civilization. I believe being removed and how evil's preyed on the convenience side of things, what's really led to us accepting all these wrapped candies and protein bars, just all these things that like we don't even know technically the majority of the ingredients on there, you know, and we've gotten this huge disconnect as to what technically is labeled food. And it's more so poisonous, the majority of what Americans deem as food these days. And I don't get it. Like, I see individuals even seemingly pretty functional without Lyme, it seems, and yet they're having issues, and it's growing. Like they continue on the path they're on, it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to be dealing with some level of diabetes in the future or something.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't to our own detriment. It's like we're not even really acknowledging and accepting any of that. We think, oh, we're going to be immune. We're the few percent that we see in their elder years that are still eating this crap kind of thing. But no, that's tributing to all these epidemics. We gotta I think our light's been so diminished that in pride, ego, it's preyed on the convenience side of things in such an effective way. The reality of today's day and age, it's never been easier to do what you're doing. It's never been easier to go to the farmers markets and ask the questions, get to connect more with, because you truly do kind of just become what you eat, just like you become who you surround yourself with in this life. And why are we accepting a diminished state when there's all these things we could seek to improve our tomorrow? As you said, no matter what state you're in, whether you're in a Lyme flare, whether you have Lyme or not, all of us could grasp that. Keep going, bro. You got great things to share, man. What? Gosh, that's. I'm going to be excited to play this back. I'll probably even journal some things, because that's how I start implementing and developing new habits, new appreciation, new gratitude, which all those things are kind of tools I use that keep me more so on the mend as well.
Man, not enough can be said for gratitude. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's very easy for us to look around, like, you know, and I mean, I'm still dealing with crawling out of it. It's not like I'm sitting on cloud 9 right now, and you know, so it'd be easy for me to look over at the neighbors, but gratitude makes it to where it shifts your perception completely. Yes. From needing something to being thankful something happened, which means if it happens again, it's a good thing. And so you actually call more of that into your life, because whatever you focus on, and this is it sounds so simple, and a lot of the cliches do, but they, like, whatever you focus on gets bigger. And so, you know, even when my head is like, when I can't see straight and my head's crushing, I've made it, and it's like, I mean, it took a lot of work, a lot of habit breaking, but not going to whatever I would do, you know, coffee would usually solve it or something like that. I now go and I take a particular type of root for that, which hawthorn berry is what I take for my headaches now, you know? And so it's kind of like, there's all these steps that we can figure out on our own and take it. But if you're sitting still while you're taking these steps and you're not just flying through with all the big numbers and analytics and events and, you know, like the busyness, then you can actually see what your steps are doing for you. And if you get calm enough, like to just sit here and be okay with tomorrow being the same or maybe a little better, then it's like all of a sudden you can focus and you understand, well, I'm not going to eat that ice cream because like dairy kills me every time. Well, I'm looking for a better tomorrow. And I'm thankful that I had a good today. So it's like whatever you focus on gets bigger. And it's all about these tiny little things. It's really not about, like, I don't see anywhere online of all these groups, people talking and stuff. I don't see anybody saying, I did this treatment, I'm finally out. It's a combination of, like, if anybody actually gets out of it, they've figured out a dozen things that are working for them on certain levels in different ways. You know, so it's really about following, like, every step. Do I make myself a little better or a little worse with this step? And slow down and trim out. Like, I can't say, you mentioned earlier about relationships that aren't good for you. I mean, there's just none that are worth pain. There's none that are worth, like, you know, that kind. And I judge it now. It's like, if I'm in a room with someone and I can feel a little tension in that room, and it's an often thing with them, then because I'm sitting still often enough, I feel that tension, and I'm like, that's enough for me to be, how much time do I want to spend around this person? Because every step I take is going towards healing or towards pain. Every step, like, there's no in between. So if I sit here and that's the step I take, then I'm going towards pain. If I get up and leave and kind of make sure, you know, avoid that conversation again, or I avoided politics, I avoided phones, I avoided Facebook for years. The only thing I got into was piano and music. And I cut almost everything else out of my life, because once again, if you sit still and you kind of like taking a measurement of yourself after you scrolled Facebook for 10 minutes, there's no gratitude there. It's actually like this fear of missing out and, like, loss. And you can feel it. You can feel it in yourself if you sit still enough, you know? And so it's kind of like, all right, do I want to spend the next 10 minutes on Facebook because I got 10 minutes to kill? Or do I want to go make myself a tea that actually helps detox and, you know, helps my body and does something physical?
Wow. I love that, Jeff. Holy smoke. Every step. Let's even try to articulate and acknowledge that it is our choice. It is our individual choice. We can't impose our will, nor should we even want to, because the way I view it, our loving creator is all about free agency. He loves us so freaking much. He's allowing us to even tear each other apart. And I can only imagine the pain, you know, and the weeping there. But then again, the celebration of those that achieve that, you know, just selflessness, where they're just, boom, they're walking in it. They're there to help others. So it's just probably this bittersweet, but it's our choice. And it's also not just for pain or healing, you know, it's our choice. Yeah, but challenge that for the other individuals, like showing up to be effective or ineffective for those others. Like, if you genuinely love this individual, then you know the answer, and you know now what it's going to take. It's almost just like one of the shifts that happened with me was challenging myself, even more so metaphorically. And this is where it is the power of the mind, because I've talked about it, and I never actually, I think because I'm not into myself in that sense, but it was more metaphorical challenge of standing in front of the mirror and asking myself, do I value this existence? And I didn't actually really like get there and stare at myself, you know, kind of thing and ask, but it was maybe even more profound. And initially it was a weak yes, but it became, happy to report, a more resounding frick yes. I value this existence. So like what that meant to me in that shift, you brought up habits a few different times, and that's a crucial part of healing. That's a crucial part of leveling up. That's a huge part of really falling into like your role in this life is being honest with yourself and acknowledging, like, my goodness, because when I said yes, I value this existence, that meant bye alcohol, that meant bye tobacco products, bye like unhealthy relations. It just was this profound shift in my life. It doesn't mean that everything necessarily got easier, because that's where, for me, the personal work just begun. And I had so much rewiring to do, so much growth to be had, so much baggage to let go. It's weird how we walk around with someone that wronged us like there's still a knife in our backs, when we're squealing like it's actually there when it's not. We're basically putting it there, and it's just like to our own detriment. It's ludicrous, but we all tend to do it from time to time. So it's a forever work in this state, but there's not a more fulfilling work to be had. It all seems to kind of just go to that humbling sense in this life. We've fed into pride and ego and wants and coveting thy neighbor and keeping up with the Joneses and all these things. But man, just really genuinely accepting, it's crazy. It's totally shifted my path in this life to where, how does one go from suicidal, genuinely coming up with the most insane ways of even exiting this life, like just planning after planning after planning, to now actually being grateful for even Lyme disease, being grateful for it. Like, what? That's insane. But it's true, because it's led me to such personal breakthrough. It's led me to a connection I just don't believe I would have ever connected in this existence without it. So in a way, it can lead us to a leveling up where it's not just beneficial for yourself, but others, and it's just it can lead to a beautiful path.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't ever said I'm happy I ended up with it, but like there's been things that I'm thankful,
Yeah.
Like the biggest piece for me is that in my heart of hearts, I was a very sweet person my whole life, but just, we all grow up with certain things that if we don't understand them and we don't take the time to understand them, then we're not analyzing the gap. And so, easy conversation, not easy conversation, but an easy one to bring up an example is like, there's no part of me that ever thought that I was racist, yet I realized that there were beliefs I held that were actually racist in their nature. And I didn't understand these kind of things until I had to request empathy at the highest level from another human being. And that was when I was unable to take care of myself due to memory problems, pain problems, and all that other stuff. And it's just kind of it's a different level, like you said. So I'm thankful for the empathy that I received, because there's almost like, I can't imagine many arguments that I could get involved in right now. Not political, not spiritual, like not any, because I've got to the point that I'm understanding that, wow, we have all come from so many different perspectives and so many different angles, and we have weights of generations on us. And And then this whole world is changing at us like it's never happened like this, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
That's pretty powerful stuff there too. Like, I even try, as much as I have done research in the political or this or that, to speak out on things, to try to get people informed to a clearer path out of it all. It's all right. I'm just losing my point. Freaking line brain. I tell you what, this is just,
I'm with you.
but it's you mentioned the arguing. That's where, gosh, they've effectively polarized topics. I even believe the delusion of choice in the political realm. There's just so much corruption in it. Irregardless, that's where I believe we, once again, just is, you could parallel it to the disconnect on food and all these things too, that we've given up our responsibilities as citizens of this country, to where we've allowed this corrupt state, the delusion of choice, and it's led us down a path. Like, all the organizations, essentially, it's been weaponized against we the people, and it's continually leading, as you can see. Like, the birth rates are down to a horrific level we've never experienced in this country before. Our actual life expectancy is dropping like never before. People are dying suddenly all of a sudden, and that never even used to be a thing, right? And now it's like one of the number one leading causes of death. It's like, get out of here. We know what's causing that. And so we need to gain back the keys and gain back that responsibility. That's where I feel the only way, and because what it needs to lead to is such a resilience, such a humbling, that we realize our neighbors are not our enemies, no matter what their political leanings. We actually need to deconstruct all that type of ideology and get back to chat, having conversation. And because if people actually had the patience and had that fireside chat where they just had nothing but time in the world and they sought to understand, it's just like, you know what, let me just seek this person's, versus trying to like sway their viewpoints. We'd actually more so understand that I'd venture to say the majority of Americans on like 80% of topics, in fact, would agree. So why are we ripping each other apart on like 20 or less % of like outcomes? It's illogical. It's to our detriment. And it's one of the oldest war tactics in the book, just dividing and conquer. It truly is united we stand. So anyway, it's a powerful thing to grasp, because it just highlights yet again all the work we need to be focused on an individual level, irregardless as to a bioweapon disease or Lyme disease or anything to that nature. I like that you brought that up. Sorry, I'm just going long-winded now at this point.
Oh, good, man. No, I'm enjoying this.
Okay. Well, that's the thing, man. Like, we have such a finite amount of time here, and we're all visiting, and to take the time and sit back and actually ponder the most real, truth to this existence. Like, it's hard to really hone in on truths, but we do know we're all visiting. And when you really start focusing on that, then it kind of leads people on a journey as to like, well, seeking the why are we here? What really matters while I'm here? And I believe more people that really ponder that, you're not going to become more so a bandit. You're going to be walking out of love for other individuals. But there's a lot of things being weaponized to keep us, I feel, on those paths. So this is all crucial, I feel, to not just ensuring a better tomorrow for ourselves, but generationally speaking. And we've really got to get over ourselves in that sense to secure things for our children. I think things have gotten so out of hand that our time might even be potentially more limited than we all could even imagine, which should just up the ante. It's not tomorrow I'm going to start drinking that extra 2 glasses of water or something. It's now. It's today, and seizing this opportunity, this beautiful day, this moment we have, in a sense that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. What other freaking amazing gold nuggets you got there for us, Jeff?
I don't know, man.
So you mentioned herbs. Like what things have you integrated with? You mentioned detox too. What things have you actually, start growing your own food? So you started understanding like fast food's no good, sourcing your food, sourcing your water. But yeah, what particular things did you start feeling like? How is your eyesight now? You had all these surgeries and now, like, is it healed a bit?
So that's, mainly. So I've been back at work for 1.5 years now, and that's computer work. So,
Cool.
with glasses, I'm good. Eyesight's good. I would say one thing I'd touch on is that I like, all right, so if we zoom out from Lyme a little bit, a lot of what I did in my healing journey wasn't to get away from Lyme, but it was to get to wellness. And so it sounds like such a different thing, but a part of that encompasses what you were just talking about with, growing your own food gives you this feeling of independence that I really can make my own decisions. Like, I figured this out, I figured that out, and
Wow.
I've got food. And so it's kind of, if we zoom out for Lyme, we look at, I wasn't really trying to escape Lyme. I was trying to get to this path of wellness where I would be thrilled with my life. Every day I'd wake up and be thrilled. And that meant full health, full memory, full everything. And so it doesn't mean I had to get there, but all I know is that every day little steps have made sure that 5 years later, I'm sitting here, I'm having a good day. And it was a lot harder work for me and for some other people than other people to get to having a good day, but it's worth it. Like, it's worth it. What else only other option, if you scroll through Facebook for another 10 minutes, you haven't gained anything either, But yeah. I like the idea of zooming out, realizing that we have way more control over the things that we realize. Alzheimer's is a perfect example of that. Like, I don't know all the details of how it's tied into Lyme, but I know there's a connection there. Mm-hmm. And what's really sad to me is that I was at that state, what could have been misdiagnosed as early onset Alzheimer if I'd went to the wrong doctor. Mm. And instead of medication in a home and stuff, I used mushrooms, and I'm just talking about like over the counter mushrooms, not,
Okay.
Yeah. So, but like, I'm talking like lion's mane, like basic,
yes.
Basic mushrooms that are huge for memory. So these things are available at your store. You can get the actual mushrooms at Whole Foods.
I have a lion's mane tincture right over here, and it has helped. I could tell. I need to get another. I might even need to find a cheaper source, because that pretty big bottle wasn't very cheap. But the reality,
you spend money,
the thing is, the basic herbals and nutritional things that have led to breakthrough, not just for me, but for countless others, and helped on their healing, right? Assisted in their healing, is far less. Like, hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? But knowing what I know now, to go back and save, I've spent over 6 figures on this dang disease, easily, and that's not even attributing to the lost time of wages and all, so much. And that's where I feel, as we have free speech, because that's crazy too. It's not beneficial for Western medicine to create these actual solutions. They want to continue us on meds. So there was a big, I'm sorry, I got thrown off. There was a replay into my headset here. And anyway, I apologize.
No problem.
I'm freaking human. Definitely. But there's more so cheaper options and alternatives. And once again, it just does boil down to awareness and to collectively together finding those more affordable alternatives. We need to turn that more so into the normal mainstream, because we have been duped. We have been deceived and misled in this blind trust. We haven't had proper checks and balances in these institutions to ensure that it was, because it's become more about the money side of it and profit and success than health and wellness. So I love the doctors that end up in a remissive state to their indoctrination, aka education, and they continually educate themselves. They're continually going to conferences and reading up studies and, practicing medicine. They're actually looking into the roots of the issues. And unfortunately, see, that's part of the institution we got to change too, because those end up the holistic, more so naturopathic doctors now that are out of pocket. So insurance isn't even a thing anymore. And we need to change the whole infrastructure, because the financial burden becomes overwhelming. The relational becomes overwhelming. I mean, as though life itself isn't challenging enough, as though this disease isn't challenging enough. It's just, layer upon layer, and we could alleviate all that and more so gain the proper support. That's where I just appreciate you yet again showing up, Jeff, because this is how we'll create more waves. This is how we'll create more momentum. And I challenge the listeners that this resonate on any level to just sharing and commenting and liking. That all that in this digital era matters and helps increase momentum. Do you have any other burning desires? What is there a way Unmuzzled Chat could bless you in your life today? Do you have any GoFundMe's, any socials or business or anything that we could plug that could bless your life, Jeff?
No, I think I'm good in that. I'm here because here's what I would say is I'm here because I want other people to make it to where I made it. I have 3 boys. The toll that it's taken on them, they're doing good, but and they're doing really well. But I don't wish that on any family. And if there's any family that can get out, then I'm here to help. And then another piece of that is I feel this is fun for me because I feel very disconnected from the whole Lyme world, to be honest right now. And that was it was by design. And this isn't for everybody. This is only for, there's certain people in certain stages that you have to realize that, hey, listen, right now, social media is not the place for me. And even if you feel like you might get some, like, if you've been doing the same thing for a long time and you're not getting results, then let's change your thing. So I see a lot of people posting on Facebook, and it does bring a little bit of empathy, but then the problem is when it's not there, you still have to get up and do the hard stuff yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I don't, I like it when people take a break from, even typing, as we talked about, words are very powerful. So even typing in, like anything, no matter how empathetic it might be, that you might still have pain or you might still be dealing with this, and you're typing it into something that stays permanently online. Just be aware of what's being put out there, so that's an energy you're sending out. And again, what steps you want to take, every step matters. Doesn't matter. Like, every step matters. If you turn TV, if you sleep with the TV on and you turn it off, you're going to go a little bit in the right direction. That's not for everybody, but everybody does have little habits that they could change, and that will put them in the right direction towards healing. So I don't know if I have much more, man, except for like, thank you for having me on. I would encourage people to play music. Like that's how my boys and I got through it. Now, this is what I'll do. I'll be a proud dad for a second. I got 3 boys. They're 14, 11, and 8. And between the 3 of them, they play about 15 instruments because and that's a silver lining from, like what I went through, like 3 years of not having relationships, spending time in a small apartment, playing piano, but watching my kids, teaching them food in the kitchen. Instead of going to birthday parties, instead of going all these other places, we were in nature, or we were in the kitchen, or we were with our instruments. And so I have a bond with my kids that I'm really happy, because I honestly, I didn't know if I'd make it for a stretch there. And so the only thing I wanted to leave my kids with was stuff that mattered, and throughout all the stuff that I'd been through, I did play a little guitar, and that had helped me so much that I wanted my kids to have something real to fall back on that wasn't money related, that wasn't, but it works every aspect. So when you start thinking of holistic healing, like your fingertips are connected to your brain. So if you work your fingertips and get them stronger with piano and with also connected to your eyes, so that like the majority of my eyes recovery was from playing 2 years of piano, and I mean like hours a day. And so
music has saved lives from the creation side of things. There's testimonies out there that exist through that. And then from the receiving side of things, there's a beauty to music. And like to your point, the challenge and learning and dedication, all the things you're developing, a lot of life lessons in that one thing. That's quite beautiful to hear. Yeah, that could lead to much blessing in one's life.
Yep, good stuff, man.
Brother, well, it has been my pleasure to chat with you here today, Jeff. Just like the pre-chat we had, I mean, I got a lot of notes here. You mentioned mullein herb. That was, I just have look into. What did that one help you with?
Mullein is Mullein. It's actually an herb that's up. It grows very much like where you're at right now, I think. Aren't you up by Heber or something?
Near Alpine, the New Mexican border of Arizona.
They probably have a lot of that growing there.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. And
that was for lungs, for breathing.
Lungs.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned hawthorn berry for headaches. That's actually
hawthorn berry has been huge for me. I don't hear about it very often, but headaches, heartburn, and it's mainly the headaches.
Wow. Well, we truly are creatures of habit, and Jeff brought up such amazing points and how we can look inwardly and humble ourselves and really propel ourselves on a path of healing. And every step truly is our choice, whether to go towards pain or just the repeat, or go towards healing, and to take a moment and just really sit back and seek that within ourselves. Listen to our intuition, listen to our soul, our spirit, and direction, even from God. And that's the thing. There's a lot of spiritual. I even feel that this existence is more spiritual than it is even mortal. You can feel from the good and the bad likes deceiving us as though it's good. So to gain that discernment, I believe you led people on a path that could lead to just that. So we're not deceived, and bring back like that critical thinking to really assess in a way that is more so going to ensure the healing path and not the destructive, right? So I just pray we all kind of seize the moment we got. If this touched your heart, if this blessed you in any way, give us a like, give us a share, comment in the section. I mean, we're only human. We're just seeking improvement, right? There's much improvement to be had. And I think we all got to humble ourselves to really get there effectively. That being said, folks, check out our affiliations. Check out Patriot Mobile, the only Christian conservative mobile network there is. You click the link below, see what they're all about. Give them a call today. Just mention Unmuzzled. Check out EMP Shield. I believe still to this day, it is the number one preparation we could do. As far as detoxifying our bodies, holy smoke. Like, Bond Charge has been amazing, and I love the infrared sauna blanket. And you're getting 15% off through our link below. Masterpiece is a tincture that actually eliminates a lot of the heavy metals that are really hard to eradicate, and forever chemicals. They didn't even intend for it to eradicate forever chemicals. It just ended up so effective. That's just an additional blessing. And gosh, for those that are in Arizona, if you want to check out a clinic that I feel is on the leading edge of treatments and things that could really fire our engines up, check out Unchained Wellness Clinic. Click that link below. Give them a call. Mention Unmuzzled. They'll hook you up with a free sauna sesh, a free cold plunge. You could see for yourself. Well, jumping in that ice cold river. Well, I think they keep it around 40 degrees, so it's not horrific, but it'll be enough to shock you and kick that depression right in the face. It'll be gone. I'm telling you, at least for a moment. But that moment, you start integrating those things, it just leads to more and more solutions. You now feel it, like Jeff was putting, like when you start feeling that path of healing, it becomes easier because we view it as like sacrifice to shift our habits. But when it's leading to healing, the sacrifice would be continually staying on the path you're on. It becomes a blessing. So it becomes easier to kick out certain foods and certain substances and really falling into our place in, I don't know, this life. Right here, get your Freedom merch apparel through none other than Black Eagle Apparel. You can exclusively get our Unmuzzled Chat t-shirt if you want to support this platform. Check that out there. You know what? I'm going to read real quick from, was it the Jesus is Calling? Well, I don't know. I went for this book, so I guess we're going to dive in. For September 10th, these are tools that have greatly blessed me in seeking this relation, like direct connect, more than any religion is what is led to breakthrough for me. And I only share this to, I don't know, for you to consider, anyone to consider looking into this. Our Creator's got a lot of love for each and every one of us, and I felt it even on this trip. So right here, September 10th reads, I am always available to you. Once you have trusted me as your Savior, I never distance myself from you. Sometimes you may feel distant from me. You may feel distant from me. Recognize that is a feeling. Do not confuse it with reality. The Bible is full of my promises to be with you always, as I assured Jacob when he was journeying away from home into unknown places. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. After my resurrection, I made promises to my followers. Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Let these assurances of my continual presence fill you with joy and peace. No matter what you may lose in this life, you can never lose your relationship with me. Folks, if you want to apply your Bible, I challenge you to look up these few scripture references because it's only going to be that much more profound diving into this very message. There's Isaiah 54:10, Genesis 28:15, and Matthew 28:20. I can't thank our guest Jeff enough for challenging himself on this live, showing up selflessly. Once again, we're not paying our guests here. We don't have that type of money. Are you kidding me? So acknowledge, absorb that, sit on that for a second. He's showing up selflessly. He wants to just breathe light and hope into other people's lives. And what has really helped you has spoke to me on such a personal level that I know it to be true. The more we can really look inwardly, we can become our greatest mortal champion in a sense, instead of like our own worst enemies. And some people call it a gift, call it a curse, but that veil's been lifted for some individuals in this life. And we've shown some of those testimonials, and they saw that those evil thoughts, those negative thoughts weren't even of their own, that it was being spoken into them. We need to sever those demonic ties, and that will help as well. I know it. It's helped me. It's been a great blessing. So anyway, very long-winded ending here, but we love you. We hope this blesses lives. Jeff, thanks for showing up here. God bless you.
God bless, man. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, man. Just trying to show up to the best of our ability. Okay, folks, till next time, take care.
Take care.